So when the mentor, Joseph, proposed that we study these 12 feelings, you know, people, if they go philosophical, they say, these are not feelings, these are verbs, actions. It's beyond that point of philosophy. It's about actual applicability. You know, when we go too philosophical, we don't go anywhere. It's about making it practical. Because, as you know, this is the month of November. In one more month, it's going to be the end of 2011. And everybody knows, according to Spiritism itself, when the clock is in 2012, we are at midnight on planet Earth. As Haroldo Dutra said, and he's going to be here next Saturday, though in Portuguese only. It's going to be a web talk. We can't help it at this point, but hopefully in the future, when he comes here, we're going to make a translation. But according to the studies, midnight can be for the optimists a new day, and for the pessimists, the darkest hour. It's certainly going to be challenging. So the mentors say we need to study the Christ-conscious feelings. And people who don't appreciate much this understanding of Jesus, the Christ, you know, it's like rebelliousness towards the governance of the planet. It's beyond just the man, it's the mindset. And in this mindset, we are proposed to work on what I master a lot, affability and mildness. I master it so much that I misspelled it. You see, mildness. See, just to give you a proof that I master very much. And the mentors, when they suggested us to give these talks, they assigned for the ones who needed the most, ourselves. So we are here sharing what the teachings say, because we are all in the way of practicing them. And to talk about affability and mildness, it doesn't come to our minds a better, a closer person that we talk oftentimes in Spiritist centers, who is Chico Xavier. He was very affable, very mild, though rocket science in mediumship, I would say. But he was mild. He was very kind, very gentle, very firm, determined. But, you know, experiences in his life taught us that sometimes the cruelty of people, the opposite of this affability, this mildness, which is aggressiveness, can be life-threatening. To the point that recently, when we were traveling, we got the opportunity to talk. One of the people that got a very close relationship with Chico Xavier, learned a lot from the years of their experience. And this lady was sharing with us saying, you know, Vanessa, sometimes it was so rough for him because he was there doing his work. And in parallel, there was this family. A couple of thinkers in Brazil, let's say this way, intellectuals. And they were very materialistic. They didn't believe in God or anything because they were communists. At the time, the Brazil was under dictatorship. And for them to talk about religion, no way. To think about the afterlife, it was like, never in a million years they would even talk about it. But one day, their child, a teenage son, came across the fact that his own feelings about religion, he wanted to become a Catholic priest. He brought the news to the parents. I want to become a Catholic priest. For them, it was a major insult. They're like, no No way. Not even over my dead body. And they were so shocked. They said, no discussion, nothing. It's funny because people talk, even today when they talk about this movement, what do they call the movement in the streets nowadays? Occupy. So they think they're so smart, right? Doing nothing and demanding so much. And that's what the communists were doing at the time. They were preaching about equality, but they were not giving equality at all. They were not. They were aggressive, probably more than the people who were dictators or equally. And they told the son, no, you're not going to do this silly thing. The son was so deeply frustrated. He went to his room and killed himself. The father and the mother of this boy was so shocked, they had no choice but to go and meet Chico Xavier. They were so distraught in their hearts. They knocked on the door of the center where Chico Xavier was working. They sat down. People used, just so we picture it, the center was smaller than this room. Okay? And it's quite fascinating. We're going to open a parenthesis here. Chico Xavier used to receive thousands of people. If you think about John of God, it's like a millionth of what Chico Xavier used to happen with him. Thousands of people would come every meeting, and the room was smaller than this. He would receive donations after donations, and he never created a mega spiritist center. Why? Because Emmanuel always said, always donate the donations, give it away, and keep it simple. Because as you heard last week when Leo was talking, simplicity is a virtue. Because if you go too big, it's impossible to maintain itself. True wisdom. So Chico was there. People used to come, give the name of the person whom they wanted to contact. But, thousands, hundreds, how would he know? At the end of that meeting, when these parents were present, especially the mother was fully focused and expectant of a message, no message came along. She was frustrated. Not only that, though, she was actually outraged. So the meeting ended in a beautiful tone of consolation to many, but she could not understand why he brought no message from the son. So she stood up from the middle of the crowd in the center and started cursing Chico Xavier. And saying bad words, saying he was a fraud and this in front of everybody in the center. When everybody left, Chico Xavier was taken to an emergency room. He had a heart attack. And I asked the lady who reliably was sharing the story, is the heart attack to do anything with the situation? She said yes. And she's a physician. She said yes. Actually, the mentors later, Emmanuel told Chico that the heart attack was a byproduct of that violence. Because the mediums are very sensitive. And people look at Chico Xavier, they don't understand why they are sick. Maybe we're causing that disease in people because we're being aggressive. And Chico Xavier was taken to the hospital because of a heart attack triggered by the aggressiveness of that woman. As this doctor told me, Vanessa, it's physiological. We know it. There is an autonomous system inside of us and two branches, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. It's all about preservation of the vital, the vitality of our bodies. If you threaten somebody these will trigger a cascade of events inevitably. There is no like maximum spirituality that is going to prevent the body to actually respond. So the question is being affable something that we need or not? Because at Moses' time, we heard in the 10 Commandments, do not kill your neighbor. But nowadays, we kill in different ways. Raul Teixeira is today in the hospital recovering from a stroke. We don't want to blame anybody, but we need to think. Were we participants of this distress in the body that caused it? Who knows? We were not there, but who knows? Who was there before he got into the plane? These are actual realizations we need to think if we are triggering health or disease in people's lives. That's the reason why when Jesus was setting the rules of a new life on earth, amongst many things in the Sermon on the Mount, he said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall possess the earth." What does that mean? It means the ones that are not meek, they're not going to stay here. And where are they going to go? Probably to the planet of the apes. That's what predictions tell, that if we don't comply with the rules of engagement in our planet, we're going to be invited to another school in the universe. Big deal. We're always learning. But we better learn. Because imagine, now you have iPhone, iPad, IDs, that, but there it's going to be the real I, because it's a lot more suffering than here. So to be here and to possess this earth in the sense of belonging here, be one with the earth, we need to be mild and affable. It may be a long way for us, but it doesn't matter. We're waking up day by day. What is to be affable or mild? Let us call the dictionary. Affability comes from being affable, and being affable means being pleasant and at ease in talking to others. I told you, we're masters in this. And what is to be mild? It reminds us of Benjamin Franklin. One of the 13 virtues he wanted to conquer was moderation, right? Because of relationship with mildness. And being mild is being gentle in nature and behavior. Doesn't mean we're not going to be enthusiastic, but we're talking about something here that is the opposite of aggressiveness, right? So if we talk about affability and mildness, we're talking about elements that are opposite to aggressiveness. So if we want to be these things, we need to be non-aggressive. But what is aggressiveness? The mentors asked us to be mild in showing a picture of aggressiveness. So it's like maybe a creature that triggers this image of aggressiveness. Not quite, because this is like a gorilla and a cat. See? But let's talk about this concept of aggressiveness, because you know the mentors, when they guide us to put together these talks, they always give us tips, and they say, do not use very strong images of aggressiveness or violence because it sticks. So we are becoming mild here in showing a picture like this. But aggressiveness is something that is truly related to the instinct of preservation. Some form of aggressive is important to protect ourselves. Think about the physical body, our immune system. If our cells in the immune system were not diligent enough in eating up, taking care of the ones that are not good, we wouldn't be in bad shape here, or not here at all, physically speaking. That's why we have lots more discarnates here than incarnates. No, but truly. So we're talking about preservation being needed. But when we go overboard, it becomes aggressiveness. And in that regard, that's why when we talk about preservation, we talk about destruction. In the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, when he talks about the divine law of preservation and then destruction, he talks about wars. Wars being something that is in this instinct of preservation that went overboard, but sometimes needed, unfortunately. And there are different types of aggression. The ones that we see clearly, like that woman, she came to Chico and vented her rage. Or some people who get a gun, boom, they exterminate others. That's easy to recognize. But what about one of the most difficult types of aggression that is out there, more present than we imagine? What type of aggression is this? The coxy, passive aggression. What is to be passively aggressive? Because we think, no, I'm not aggressive. Okay, let's read this and see if we're really not aggressive. Being marked by or displaying behavior characterized by the expression of negative feelings, resentment, and aggression in an unassertive passive way, as through procrastination and stubbornness. What is this? Let me show you a picture. It's a cartoon. It's just a cartoon. A guy tells the other, of course, I'm behind you 100%. Why would you think otherwise? And then he's stabbing the other on the back. How many people are like this? To give us a better idea about it, our whole talk is based on these teachings here. Chapter 9, item 6. Affability and Mildness. And here they talk about people who actually have good manners, but it's just a garment. Deep inside, they are not truly affable. People who speak very softly, and they're like, oh, how are you? But on the back, wait until they get home. They're gonna lash that person out in their words, calling people, gossiping. And nowadays, Facebook, internet, blah, blah, people use this, they misuse the tools we're given. This is passive aggressiveness. People who are hypocrites, they are passive aggressive. People who are Puritans, no, I don't do this. But if you put them in the same scenario, they probably would do worse. Who knows? But we are Puritans. So passive-aggressive is something that Kardec could not use this expression at his time because it didn't exist. But he used other words to express that when he talks about affability and meekness, it's a message from the spirit Lazarus that Kardec reports and then discusses. But he talks about what we would say etiquette versus spiritual etiquette, in modern words. This very chapter, item 6. He says, good manners and worldly skill can lend a veneer of such good qualities. However, one must not always trust in appearances. Some people seem to be so sweet and kind, but deep inside they're not. How many there are those feigned good nature is no more than an outward mask, a garment whose premeditated form covers up hidden deformities. The world is full of such individuals. This was 1861, and seems like it's still true. Who have a smile on their lips and venom in their hearts, who are meek as long as nothing angers them, To this class belong also the men and women who seem benign on the outside, but who are really domestic tyrants, making their families and subordinates suffer the weight of their pride and despotism, as though wanting to give even for the restraints imposed on them elsewhere. Not daring to use their authority on strangers who would put them in their place, they want to at least be feared by those who cannot resist them. It is not enough for lips to flow with milk and honey, because if the heart does not do the same, it is hypocrisy. And that's what he's saying. He's saying the etiquette in the world is not enough. We need to have this deep spiritual etiquette. For whom? Let's ask this question. To show Jesus, see Jesus, how good I am? No, it's to ourselves. Because we gain if we push that much harder on us. Kindly, but saying, come on, we're going to do exercises tonight to exercise in us this much needed spiritual etiquette. It's about vibrations. It's about vibrations. And the opposite happens. People may look at you, us, and see, oh, too aggressive. But it's probably a projection of people. How many people looked at Jesus and saw a madman, a womanizer, a revolutionary, and he was none of those things? Was he? Mm-mm. They were projecting. Majority of people were projecting. The same mechanism happens in our lives. That's why the Spirits say, you can judge, according to Jesus himself, the level of vibration of a person by the deeds of the person, not by the words. What are they doing in their lives? Are they dedicating their lives more to other people than themselves? So when people dare to crucify Jesus again in those who are serving humanity, we're like, we know what's happening. Projections. So our lives are all about ourselves and God, our relationship. That's what this lesson today is all about. It doesn't matter. In the math of life, what we think about others is not going to count. The way we judge them is not going to count. But what we think, what we do, what we say, that is going to account in the math of ourselves and God, that says Mother Teresa. After all, it's all about us and God. In that regard, the best way to understand affability and mildness is in these Lazarus words. Benevolence toward one's fellow being, the fruit of love toward one's neighbor, produces the affability and mildness that are its manifestation. What is to be benevolent? Kind-hearted. If we get, let's get this word, if we get benevolence here, two words, bene means good, volens means will. Have good will. So we are invited tonight to have goodwill towards people. That's why forgiveness always plays a role in people who have goodwill. If I don't have goodwill, forgiveness is never going to play a role in my life. I need to have goodwill. Willingness to do good, to feel good, to talk about good things, to start again always. And that's how affability and mildness come to play. We could do hundreds of exercises, but we have selected two major exercises to practice on affability and mildness. So in our daily lives, we can more easily apply them every day. So one day, we're going to be possessing the earth, as Jesus said. So when we talk about the exercise on affability, of the many things, affability specifically, what is affability again? Let's go back. Being pleasant and at ease in talking to others, in relating to others. Being pleasant and at ease. One of the elements to practice this affability is to learn how to discreetly develop fraternal interest for a stranger, including people who seem rude or introspective. Hopefully it's there. What happens when you see a face like this and it's blurred on purpose? Because we don't want to expose anybody specifically here, especially in this case, okay? So let's say you feel like this guy is like angry and he's coming to talk to you. He's angry. How often do we react to our teenagers like this? Like they are moody and then, whew, we are so reactive to that, right? To be discreetly, let's read it again. To be discreetly developing this fraternal interest. And I look at this person, let's say this guy is the cashier at a store. We go to eat at McDonald's. And this guy is serving us. He's rude. And then, how do we train affability? That's the hardest thing. He's rude to you. Now talk to him in your mind and practice affability, which is train it first and we're going to discuss later. I'm going to train here. You train there. And let's see. Okay? So he comes, serves you. He's rude. He's like, here it is. And the things you ordered are a little misplaced. And you need to learn how to be affable. Meaning being pleasant and at ease. But remember, this is the spiritual etiquette. So it's inside, not only a veneer in our faces. It's feeling affable. Let's practice this. You can call Jesus if you want to help you. You want some music to inspire you? There's going to be no music there, but that could be a training here. Thank you, Daniel. All right. I know we could go on and on and on. But let us discuss a little bit. What is the strategy that you found? Because there are different strategies. You can say and I will repeat, okay? For the camera. What are the strategies you found that made it possible? Is there anybody here who said, no, it's impossible? Like, no, if the guy's rude, like, I'm not there. I'm paying for it. He has to be, serving me with caring. Okay, so would you like to share your strategy, the one that you found to conquer this discreet way of feeling, this fraternal caring for the person who is not behaving accordingly to your expectation? Would you mind sharing?
Compassion.
How do you feel compassion?
You realize that that's your fellow brother and they're suffering in some way. Otherwise, they wouldn't be acting like that. And then you have compassion for their suffering.
Thank you. So compassion rooted in the acknowledgement that this person has a reason for being that way. Not that we're saying it's right, but we understand. So it's triggered by understanding the situation of the person. It reminds us of a story in the book, Jesus in the Home, that talks about a guy who is like that. Thank you. Yes, Paula, please.
This week, someone told me an idea that I liked. She said that throughout the day, she says arrow prayers. And they're just short, little prayers in the moment. So I'm trying to say the St. Francis of Assisi prayer in these situations. Let me be an instrument of your peace. Because I have to temper my gut reaction first. And then I can shift in.
So you said arrow prayers? Like arrow?
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept. So I'll try to repeat, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. So Paula said she learned from a friend about these short prayers to send to people, like arrow prayers. And the one that she found out very effective for her is the St. Francis prayer, saying in these difficult moments when we need to temper our gut, instincts to say, may I be your instrument, dear Lord. Thank you for sharing this. Anybody else? I think we have so many different strategies. It's good to share because maybe your strategy is going to benefit others who are here. Anybody else would like to share other things they found out in this exercise? Yes, please, Fred.
I remember once I went to church and the priest says that don't react to the matters of life, don't react with your mind or physically. Think with your soul. Because that is what connects us to God.
Wow. Thank you. So I'm going to repeat, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. So Fred learned when he was once at the church the teaching that we should learn to react not with our mind or our bodies, but with our soul. And that's what we're practicing here, in other words, right? Trying to get the spiritual selves, which is our true nature, to elaborate. Dr. Paul Ekman, who is one of the most renowned psychologists in our modern times, he gives a talk he actually was interviewed at UC Davis, and you can get his excerpt on compassion and deceit, his long-standing research with the Dalai Lama and his dialogue. He published a book with the Dalai Lama saying, revealed emotions. And he says, it's at iTunes U, and the channel is at UC Davis, the University of California, Davis. And he talks about the fact that when we talk about emotions, conquering emotions, we need to increase the gap between impulse and action, which is quite difficult, but not impossible. As said Divaldo Franco once to a friend of ours, not impossible, So it's possible to be affable, to be fraternal, and to be interested. You see, this fraternal interest to people. Because we would look at this guy and think, who is he? As if he is. Let's bring Spiritism now to give one major technique that combined with the techniques you shared can be a real good recipe. In Spiritism, we learn that we are all children of God, immortal beings, and that maybe today we're not in the same blood family, but tomorrow we may be. And in these very books, we learn that sometimes people whom we loved very much in previous lives because they were in our families, now they are living elsewhere. Let's see, I'm traveling to Europe and I find a homeless, because unfortunately they exist there as well. We see a homeless. I don't care. Why should I care? Because maybe this person was in my family in a previous life, as says the book Heaven and Hell, or will become. Can you imagine? And because in the aftermath of God's math, everybody, for God, everybody matters. So this guy, I look at him. That's why breathing is the best way to increase the time between impulse and action. Somebody does something and people talk about the peace water, but breathing is very effective. Like we breathe in deeply and out as many times as needed. It's a training. But trying to find the techniques, breathing is the best mechanism. Breathe. It gives new oxygen to the brain, shifts the physiology because it's giving oxygen to something that is probably constricted because probably the sympathetic system is triggered and you don't have time to think. The fight and flight response comes from the sympathetic system inside of us. But when we start breathing deeply in, slowly out, we counterbalance it by giving a new boost to the parasympathetic, which is taming that fight or flight. And say, okay. So that's why we see people who master their emotions more than the ordinary people. They speak less. In these conditions, they are breathing deeply and they are looking very firmly in the eyes of the apparent opponent. Keeping that eye contact to meditate, as we heard, that person is probably not doing well. Because when you're doing well, you don't have that kind of attitude. And then you send these arrow prayers. Great expression. But good arrows, because we don't want to hurt anybody. Just to get to the place faster, like a message that comes and envelop, let's say, enlightening arrow prayers. It didn't exist in the past like the arrows with fire. We put healing light in these arrow prayers, throw them, and envelop this boy, thinking, maybe you didn't have a good childhood. Maybe you miss your dad, your mom. Maybe you don't have good siblings. Maybe you're under a lot of stress because of this and that. Maybe you're under drugs. You know what? I care for you. And then you send that enlightening message. We remember once we were having dinner and a waitress came so stressed out and so agitated. And the mentor said, look deeper. See who is nearby her. You could see like this darkened entity filled with anger. And that presence, the mentor is saying, was almost like a porcupine, you know, pinching her with these needles of hatred. And her behavior was simply the byproduct of being stinged all the time with these arrows of anger. So then he said, look at her, give her a break. Send her some healing. So you see, we can serve anywhere we are. We don't need to be in the Spiritist center, or in a church, or at work. In the streets, how many people are driving these roads and they are striving to get up to a place. They're somewhere else and they have to be in the road, and we could send them some healing light, healing aid to calm them down so they don't become too stressed out. Because by the time they get there, they're already so stressed out. Their physiology, because imagine being alert for hours. You're talking about physiology. You're putting your physical body constantly in alert. That imbalances us, for sure. It's inevitable. It's physical. No wonder they put mediums so sensitive like Chico Xavier, Divaldo Franco, to be born in the countryside of almost like nowhere in Brazil. So they were not exposed to traffic, to crazy metropolitan cities, blah, 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 because their sensitivity was too much to be threatened by this much. So when we go to these places, we need to exercise this affability. How about now, one of the preferred things of Benjamin Franklin, moderation, mildness. To practice this, we could do many exercises, but we're going to do one that encompasses the reaching of this mildness. I could show you like a plate of a banquet of food. Practice mildness. When you see food, that's one exercise, but that's too easy, or not. But we're going to exercise this element of mildness, which is increasing this time between impulse and action. To be mild, I need to be willing to do something, and between doing it, thinking, feeling it, and doing it, I moderate it. How many people are like, I will only volunteer if I volunteer 10 hours a week? Because if you volunteer only 30 minutes a week, it's not enough. And then they don't volunteer. Isn't that funny? Because sometimes we're too exaggerated. But if we become mild, it's like, it's okay. I will volunteer 5 minutes a week. It's all I can do. It's better than not volunteering at all. Because if I only care for myself and my family, I'm selfish. Yes, I think it's, some people think it's charity to care for us and the family. No, it's obligation. Charity is when we care for people who cannot pay anything in return. And there are so many ways. So, to exercise this, we're going to give you something dramatic. Because we're in therapy time now. It needs to be dramatic. A true picture we got in Google. And it shows something that certainly is going to make us feel something. And we are going to be asked a question about it. How to do it. Look at this picture. How do you feel when you see this scenario? You don't need to share yet, but think about how you feel about it. Because we're talking about spiritual etiquette, so it's not only about what comes from our mouths, but training our minds. Do you think Jesus would look at this and be outraged? let me give a break here. Let's go to the book Sex and Destiny to give an example of mildness here. The more elevated spirits are very mild. That's why people can go and kill and do whatever they exert their free will, and they don't come and say, "You're crazy. What are you doing? Have you lost your mind?" The good spirits never say those words. Why? Because it doesn't cross their minds. Why? Because they learn to be mild. Amongst other virtues, for sure. Patience, which is next week's theme. But they learn how to organize themselves in their thoughts and feelings between the impulse and the action, in their thoughts first. In the book Sex and Destiny, there is a scene that André Luiz is describing in which a woman is sick in the hospital room. In the visiting room of the hospital nearby, her husband is there with his mistress. They are talking about love, blah, 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 and the wife is there. André Luiz, in spirit form, with his friend, Pedro Neves, who is actually the father of the woman who is lying in bed in the hospital. They are looking at the couple. To say the least, they were so outraged about it. They're like, can't believe these people are doing this. How come? She's there, sick, and they dare to cheat on her here in the hospital. And they are deceased spirits, right? They're people. They are discarnate spirits. And they are there emitting those vibrations. The more they emit, André Luiz said, the more they kiss each other, they hug each other. The more judgmental they are, the more it pushes the people to do what they are doing. And then comes Brother Felix from a higher plane to rescue even them, and looked at them with compassion. And André Luiz describes, when Brother Felix came to the scene, his non-judgmental nature, his compassion, understanding, enveloped them in a new vibration that made them realize, almost as they were awakened in a single moment, what are we doing? And they one went to the other room, and the other one went back smoking. They separated for the time being. And then André Luiz shares with us, being judgmental only enhances people's wrongdoing. Because the vibrations we send is to say, you're bad, and then you become worse. Isn't that interesting? So in this learning of mildness, this spirit come with this greater understanding and compassion, and truly mild in managing his understanding of the situation there. So when we are looking at these, the girl so young smoking, the little one not only watching but also in need to lose weight and take care of herself, we see like, how do we exercise? So now it's an exercise. Let's exercise this Brother Felix feeling, okay? Of true understanding and compassion, non-judgmental, conquering our inner feelings, being mild. First inside, and then how you as a parent would approach your children if these were your children. Because some parents would lash, spank, ground them, merciless, treating violence with violence. How would you be mild to these children and still be a good educator if you had to approach this scenario yourself. Let us practice this ourselves. Practice this mildness in becoming, in being a parent or an educator. All right. What are the things that you think would be a good mild approach, though still being a good educator, if these were the children you're responsible for? Anybody would like to share?
I think that...
Okay, I'll give the microphone because it's going to be, because of time, it's going to be much easier. Thank you.
I think for my child, or I think if it's for my child or not, I would definitely take her aside and put down the cigarette and ask her, what is she doing? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know how it's hurting your body? Why are you doing this? Who taught you this? You don't need to do this. You are an immortal soul. You are beautiful. Don't dirty or damage your body. You are destined for greatness. You have a purpose. Don't do this. Let's find something else to do. Let's talk about, and perhaps maybe if we wanted to, we could show some educational photos of people who smoke and say, this is what happens to you. You know, you don't want to, your lungs, your nails start to get very, you know, the educational, but you try to see with tenderness that it's a lack of an understanding, it's a lack of education, that it's simply if you try to reach out, I think sometimes that helps.
And think that at times it helps. Thank you. Thank you, Kirsten. Anybody else would like to share another feature of the approach? Your approach?
If I'm the parent, I would ask, why did you replace me for the cigarette? Where did I go wrong, you know? She's smoking because I was not there. It's like the guy with the ugly face. If you see a cashier that displays an ugly face, how many people that day ignored him or didn't say hi, didn't try to do charity? Compassion is the sister of charity, according to the gospel. So, you know, sometimes everybody just walks by the cashier who is rude, and nobody says good morning. It's lack of charity, and that's my golden opportunity of the day to help.
Exactly.
The cashier has been like that, displaying an ugly face. That's because from the time that he put on that ugly face and the time that you encountered him that day, everybody before you failed to do charity to this guy.
Yeah, you're right. It's an opportunity for us, as you said, to go back and see that this immortal soul also, as Kirsten was saying, is probably bringing a tendency of the past. And some parents ask us, when can I tell these things to my child? Since they are in the spirit realm, before they reincarnate in the belly. Oh, but they don't understand. Oh, they do. Parents know they do. They may not show you 100% or reply to you in that same, at the same level, but they do. And that's why the coming back of a previous life baggage here is an opportunity for us to say, if God gave us the responsibility to guide this soul, we have the tools. And then we talk. Why? As Christine was saying, and Marcus. It's our single opportunity, because charity, as Marcus was saying, mildness is a part of charity. Charity, when we heard from the Spirit's book, the answer of the spirits to the word charity. Okay? The word charity, it's good that this is ringing, because we cannot forget about the definition of charity. So it comes with a physical effect. All right. So, what is charity? Kardec asked the Spirit, what is this so-called charity? And the answer was, charity is benevolence towards your family. No, everyone. So having goodwill towards everyone. Not only that, but being sweet. Because when they say indulgence, they mean the sweetness, kind. Towards what? And their imperfections. So many parents would come and lash at this child and say, what are you? And then they would start cursing and saying names. And, oh my God, poor brain. He's recording everything. And then instead of helping, like André Louis' brother Felix, it's putting down. You're bad, you're a loser. You're not going to amount to anything, you see? At 6, you're already smoking. What are you, a Trump or something? Sorry for the words, but some parents are that hard. And they're not helping. They're making it worse. And the third part of being charitable is to forgive the offenses of others. If we want to be charitable, mildness is in this package. Because affability and mildness is within benevolence. And that's why Jesus said, if we train this affability, this mildness, we're going to become meeker. Meeker is not the definition that is in the Merriam-Webster, with all the gratitude we have for the people who put it all together. Because meekness is not weakness. Meekness is increased threshold between what you're thinking and feeling and your reaction towards a positive reaction. Jesus says, conquering this affability, having this true interest for the souls that we encounter, being kind, gentle, we're going to possess the earth. The transition of the earth, we can tell aggressiveness is not anymore in the top list of humanity. People are becoming ever more tired of this. People want to hear more good news, good deeds. They want to partake into those. And more, no wonder good movies like Astro City are coming to the United States in a DVD form. Did you know about it? You can go online at strandreleasing.com and buy the DVD before December 6th, they have a special discount. And we're sharing the news because they asked us so. We don't gain anything at the SSB, but it's good for everybody because people want to see the good news about life. To the point that we'll conquer ourselves and be more in tune with the progress of the earth. We are progressing and the planet is as well. If we don't progress, planet's going to continue progress, we're going to fall behind, and then we're going to be transferred. But not everybody in our lives, can you believe it? It's sad. Because then our loved ones will be here, and we'll be there eating bananas. And maybe going bananas. Because it's not easy. No iPhone, no iPad, no internet, no car, no fast food, no oven, no heater, no... It's hard. So we better become mild. We want it. It's good to be affable and to be mild. And the days we're not, what do we do? Crucify ourselves? No. Because being mild at the way we correct ourselves and others is also a part of this. Start again. We need patience when we don't reach that level. And that's why next week, when you come here, Kirsten's going to tell you about patience. She's going to tell us about patience as a part of the pathway into this Christ conscious mindset. Feels good, doesn't it? Feels good. And because it feels good, we're going to prepare ourselves for the passes now. Okay? Let us prepare ourselves. We're going to dim the lights. Prepare ourselves for these deeper moments of therapy.